There's a new agent named Iris. They're level 1 agents in all 11 stations. So it's Amamaki, Amar, Asa, Abanal, Dodixi, Hakoken, Hek, Jita, Oriphe, Renz, Yahaba, and Iris. Which means Oriphe will finally have an actual proper station. This reminded me of the AI targeting system leaked that was never before seen and illegal prior to the Trig invasion. Dean, do you not know what that was? Because it wasn't like a mystery. Paragon is, of course, the new organization. It's part of Evermore. Paragon was founded by Evermore as a luxury service for what they offer to New Eden's true elites, the Encapsulators. Using brand new nano-holographic technology, Paragon is the first company to offer programmable holograms that create floating emblems on ships. Paragon is both representative and ran by Iris, a cloud-based... Oh, that's the cloud-based thing. Cloud-based soft AI hosted in multiple human bodies from stations dotted around New Eden. She makes exclusive offers in exchange for unique items. So... So, to summarize, you are going to have to bring specific ships to one of these 11 stations, talk to this lady right here, give them to her, and then she will give you the points to allow you to buy the logos. And the stations look like this. Cool? Is it a good idea to turn in stuff? So what's really happening here is almost a year ago now, CCP released a package deal that included a fit retriever. Now, up until this point, no ship had ever been sold by CCP that was not already given away as part of things like the MPE, i.e. destroyers, exploration frigates, etc. The retriever represented a major escalation of this because all retrievers in the game up until that point existed because a player built it. And this made it no longer true. However, at the time, CCP said that they were going to introduce a new program to make it so that we still build the ships, because the problem was not that CCP is selling ships for cash, strictly speaking. The problem is that CCP is competing with players for the production of those ships, right? Everybody who produces ships, or that ship, now has a new competitor. And that new competitor can make them from black magic. And that's really scary for things like people that build, say, battleships that require a lot of commitment. So the point here is that now we will turn in ships into... that's an interesting question, Kamina. I'll get there. We will donate the ships that they've asked for to one of these facilities. We will get points for holograms. So none of it's worth any money. They can't be traded, can't be bought, can't be sold, can't be anything. Once the stuff that you get from turning in the ships cannot be represented in a value of ISK because you can't sell it. So if I have a caracal, I can sell that caracal on the market for ISK, or I can give that caracal to Iris for Everbucks, we're going to call them, right? And then use my Everbucks to buy my corporation logo. And then CCP turns around and sells those ships as a deal on the store. And they're their stockpile is what we've turned in. Now, let's get to a couple of questions. I still think this is a bad idea to sell things in the shop that even if they've been handed out by people. Who's to say that the numbers match up and they don't match up perfectly? Either is going to be creating fake demand or fake supply. Well, I mean, we're just going to have to trust CCP that they're doing it that way, but we already have to trust CCP that they're not magically creating caracals and seeding them on the market, right? Like, I mean, if they want to secretly increase things more than, or like provide things that they say that they're not, they could easily just do that already. It behooves CCP for people to trust in this system, right? Because they need the players to buy into the idea that this is okay. So it would surprise me if they didn't have some sort of way to be assured that every ship that's sold was in fact built by a player. Now, this is the only Paragon fulfillment center right now. How would players even ever know if that's true, though? How would you know that every caracal that's on the market was built by a player? How would you ever find out? Yeah, okay. Well, then it's the same. No, it's just, Krovan, anytime I talk about this, I use a caracal as my example. I don't know, like the archetypal version of this is like the rapid light caracal, right? Like, I don't know where I got that in my head, but it's always been like my go-to ship for the example for this discussion. Yeah, it could be an asset sink as well. Why not use a Drake? Because Drake has a bunch of other connotations. Caracal kind of sounds is a bit of more of a fun word to say, and I wanted to stick with. So frigates and destroyers are both given out for free. So the lowest tier that would be a violation of the rules would be cruiser. So I stuck with cruiser. If you really want to know. Now then, no, that is hilarious though. Meaning you don't have trust in CCP. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is that CCP does show us numbers. And like I said, I would not be surprised if CCP did not show us at least some sort of graph at a fan fest somewhere that shows how many were turned in versus how many were sold, right? Because, like, yeah, that's definitely part of the answer, right? Like, that's part of the question. That's part of the issue here. And so that's what CCP needs to assure us is doing well. I mean, they did all of this. Just think about it this way. CCP just spent 3 years trying to put in DirectX 12. Also, they could put in their new particle system and visual effects systems that they've been working so hard for. They've dedicated countless hours of their art team and technical teams in both building the tools to do it and all of the assets that are required to make all this stuff work. Rather than putting these things on the premium store and selling them for cash, which would be the obvious solution, right? They're not being. The only way to get these is through in-game activity. In this case, building and turning in ships. But that's only going to be the first thing that they've said. So they could have turned that effort into a revenue stream. But instead, they turned it into an activity rewarder. Do you understand how bonkers that is from like a business standpoint, that they would develop a giant cosmetic system and then not sell it for cash? Do you know how insanely crazy that is? Do you know what that means about how much CCP wants you to be out there and doing things? It is worth more to them for you to be able to do that than for them to get the money that they would get with us paying them for these lovely holograms. That's wild. So the notion that they're going to half-ass it and somehow fuck it. Okay, well, it is CCP, so there's always the chance. But you'd think, like, if you're willing to do all of that, it doesn't seem like the kind of thing that they would risk fudging it up. Especially since, like, hopefully it'll be more popular than that, right? Like, I think that there's just as much chance, if not more, that they get too many caracals for how many they sell, or for how many they plan on selling, and not too little, right? So, and I'm sure, like, they could even do it where the actual store itself says how much stock is left, right? So that way we can watch the numbers go down. I don't know. There's ways to do it. I'm just saying, like, of all of the different pieces to it, trusting CCP to actually sell the ships that they're doing, like, they're already going pretty far out of their way to make this work for us, I would say. But yes, never underestimate CCP's ability to fuck it up. That's true. That's why I corrected myself halfway through that. But I think that there could very well be problems with this system, but I don't think that that's one of them. Either way, I will close with this thought, though. Probably close this topic probably with this thought, which is that the thing to remember is that the reason why all of this is happening is because CCP has determined, basically beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the single best thing that they can do for getting people to get deeper into the game is to sell them a fit ship. I'm not sure if I like it either, but I've talked to several people in the CSM. I've talked to several people in CCP, both privately and publicly, about this matter. And the God honest truth is, you can sell people Plex, you can give people even a fit to go buy, but a new player doesn't know how to do any of that. So if you give them a fit ship, then that gets them in the door. And at least they have something. And when that ship gets killed, at least they have the record of what was fit on that ship. They're one step closer to understanding how to fit a ship. And that is worth, for some people, to buy a pack of a small amount of Plex and stuff, so that way it comes with a fit destroyer with it. Not enough Plex to buy a destroyer, because that's not good enough. That Plex to buy a destroyer and a destroyer are not the same thing. There's too many implied tasks in the Plex situation. So the idea is that it's not supposed to be efficient. It's not supposed to be, the best way to get these ships. Most of the time, it's not even a considered value. You get about the money's worth of value, worth of Plex or account time or whatever in the bundle as well, like you did with the Retriever Pack. And therefore, like, I think the Retriever Pack was $20 and you got a Retriever, but you also got about $20 worth of account time, if I remember correctly. So the point is that this is, quite frankly, a retention tool, plain and simple. It's a way for CCP to be able to show off cool fits for things. It's a way to get people to baby step their way into having, into the universe. It's a way for CCP to generate some revenue and expand out into this way instead of being locked out of it for what amounts to arbitrary personal reasons of ours. And it allows them to do it all while preserving the actual market, right? Because these are they're non-comparable, right? If you want a hologram, if you want that hologram, you've got to turn in the ships. It doesn't matter how much ISK you have. And likewise, that hologram isn't worth any ISK. You can't turn it into ISK. So it's a totally separate track, which means, it could create a pressure on the market where caracals are being bought up off the market in mass to be turned in. But that is play and counterplay. That is the markets doing their job. You get what I'm saying? So that's interesting to see. So I think that, like, if you could go in an environment where I've often said that the real problem here is that CCP doesn't teach people how to fit a ship confidently. So that's the best answer. But barring that, if you do have to do this kind of thing, which games continue to have to modernize and find new revenue streams and stuff, I think that this is probably the best way to do it. And again, with the idea that they can now use these interbus points or whatever, Everbucks, to incentivize whatever activities they want people to do. Because here's the thing. We keep talking to CCP about the need to bring content. But guess what? What is the content in EVE? The content in EVE, the true content, are other players, right? The real content is your interactions with other people, good or bad. That is the content. Everything else is just background noise designed to generate those encounters. I'm not kidding. It doesn't matter if you're a single player or not. That's the fundamental, like that's what the engine of EVE Online is. Preach it. All right. So, but this allows them to now directly reward people for going out there and getting involved, doing things in game. I can't see a way other than ignoring all the details and just only focusing on the fact that they're selling ships is the only way to look at this and like see it as a problem, in my opinion. All right. Oh yeah, there are always going to be people finding a way to complain because in the end they don't even need facts if it gets right down to it, the facts are only convenient, right? Yeah. Which is why I don't want CCP stirring the pot, incentivizing people to do this or that or the other. Leave the ecosystem undisturbed. Drop in new toys and whatnot if you want. So now we get, but the CCP tried that, and now everybody's complaining that CCP didn't give them any content, right? Like that's what an event is, though, Shara. Like it's just. Here's the thing. Different incentive. All of the activities have incentives on them. If CCP shouldn't be incentivizing this thing or another, then remove all bounties from anomalies, remove all loot from the Abyss, remove all loot from hacking cans. Like, obviously that's absurd, but my point is that every activity has rewards. Every activity, and those rewards exist as rewards. Not, I mean, like they can do its own thing, but like they exist as rewards to cause people to do that activity. So the fact that they can make it so that like today you need to kill a player, next day you need to mine some ore, or you know whatever, like almost like skills for kills. Rewards aren't incentives. I don't. Okay, so if I join Faction Warfare and I go run plexes and I get rewarded LP, are you saying that that LP is not an incentive to do Faction Warfare? The point is that creating agitation in the game by CCP, and by that I mean like small fluctuations, not anger, but by making it so that there's always a different thing that's being incentivized, and like there's always a different event going on, there's always things happening. We no longer have to assume that the world is completely sterile and sits as this static thing that we poke at the way we want to in order to get the thing that we want. No, it's a living universe that has different kinds of things available at different times with different amounts of ease or difficulty. That is, in my opinion, a better design. It doesn't eliminate the sandbox, because the sandbox is about the way we are allowed to interact with each other, not the things that there are to interact about, right? It's the ability to project our will into the universe and make a change, even if it's temporary, right? So the challenges function as catalysts. So now people need to figure out how they want to do it. Organizations need to decide whether or not they want to get involved, like as an organization. people will come into conflict with people. People will meet. You'll meet and get to know the other people that are really involved in this particular iteration of the points, you know? And so I think that while I get the gut reaction, the defensive reaction of people with things like Abyss and this and other things, just realize that, like, the way I like to think about it is we like to say that EVE Online is about player choice. But if the CCP doesn't give us anything, we can't choose anything, right? If CCP says, you should go mine today, now you have a choice. You can listen or not listen. And there are consequences for each. Maybe not listening is actually going to be better than listening for some reason, right? But the point is that you now have a thing to react to. It's just like this faction warfare event right now, right? The faction warfare event is happening. It's going to have consequences. It's going to be locked in the ever told story of Eve, right? It's happening. And because it's happening, you get to choose how you want to be engaged. Whether that's participate in helping one side, whether it's going and preying on all the people that are trying to get something done, whether it's trying to collect the tickets so you can make money, whether it's ignoring the entire fucking thing because it doesn't matter to you. Those are all totally valid choices, and choices that you could not make if the event wasn't happening. That is why events are not incompatible with the sandbox. Does that make sense? These objectives, rather than being artificial, function as catalyst points for our storytelling. It's my preference that people to source something for the player base, not for CCP. Well, but they are. That statement is so confusing, because like every caracal that's sold on the market is sourced for the player base, right? And all this is just another way. Like, the idea is that, think about it this way. It allows us to sell stuff for cash, but we don't actually get the cash. You get what I'm saying? Like, it protects it from RMT too. So, and it gives us a new thing to do. Especially since if they use T1 hulls, let's be frank, T1 hulls are almost never profitable. So